It is about as far from the truth as you could possibly get. But what do? You know, you take your ape-like fossils and you, through creative imagination, you exaggerate human-like qualities of those. That's what they do. And that's what we see in these reconstructions. We don't see an exact reconstruction. We see what either the scientist or perhaps even the artist they read into it what they want to be there. And this is even admitted. A reconstruction was done of Australopithecus afarensis for the National Geographic edition in March 1996, shown here. And the artist even admitted that it wasn't an exact reproduction. He says, I wanted to get a human soul into this ape-like face to indicate something about where she was headed. It's not an exact reproduction. It's not an honest replication of what they had found. She wanted to get a human-like soul into that ape-like face. Intentionally made the ape-like face human-like to make so that it indicated something about where she was headed, not where she was, where they believed she was headed. The reality is Australopithecines are apes. They share all the characteristics that we see amongst apes, such as chimpanzees, and almost none share with humans. The brain size overlaps chimpanzees. Jaws are similar to chimpanzees. They have the long arms, identical to chimpanzees. Lower leg bone is similar. Large back muscles for tree dwelling. Hands similar, even more similar to the pygmy chimpanzees than regular chimpanzees. An ape-like foot capable of grasping. Fingers and toes were long and curved. Locking wrists. Again, they're what they call knuckle walkers. The wrists lock into place as they walk around on their knuckles. The ankle bone as well was ideally suited for tree dwelling. Charles Oxnard, who's arguably the world's foremost expert on computerized analysis of bones using digital X-ray. He's a professor of anatomy and anthropology at the University of Chicago and currently at the University of Western Australia, states that the Australopithecines are now irrevocably removed from a place in the evolution of human bipedalisms. Possibly from a place in a group any closer to humans than to African apes, and certainly from any place in the direct human lineage. But he's being a little optimistic here, because they will never be removed until there's something else to take its place. It's like Piltdown Man. It will remain, despite all the problems with this, until they have something better to take its place. And that's just what happens.
If we're talking about seeing evolution today, seeing one species changing into another species, that's not going to happen. Although there must be, from an evolutionary perspective, many transitional forms out there, the likelihood of finding any one of them is extremely low.
The more we learn about paleontology, that is fossils, the more certain we are that evolution is based on faith alone.
The National Academy of Science is the official advisor to the U.S. government on questions of science. In its publications, it falsely claims that the missing links that troubled Darwin are no longer missing. This is misrepresentation which deceives millions, because after 120 years of exhaustive searching, Darwin's missing links are still missing. Yet this academy and evolutionists continue to perpetuate the mythical theory that man developed from ape-like creatures.
Richard Leakey, who is one of the most well-known anthropologists, said that if he were asked to draw a family tree for man, he would just have to draw a huge question mark, because the evidence is too scanty to possibly know man's evolutionary origin, and he didn't think we're ever going to find it.
To aid and abet evolutionary concepts, artistic depictions have gone beyond ethical boundaries. Despite having no foundation for the ape-to-man theory, scientists and artists continue to dupe the public with lifelike but imaginary illustrations. These artists vainly entertain natural progressions of apes to humans and presume their hair color, skin tones, and even facial expressions from no more than a tooth, a piece of bone, or even no evidence at all. National Geographic magazine, which doesn't attempt to hide its evolutionary bias, admits that these fossilized footprints are identical to human footprints, Yet artists take the liberty to accommodate evolutionary theory and illustrate ape-like features to fit ape-like creatures. All because biased dating processes insist that these footprints were found in rock layers said to exist before humans.
Now, today we have evolutionists who would like us to believe there is solid evidence for evolution. Before the public, they generally create the impression that the evidence is just like solid gold, that man has evolved from some ape-like creature.
Dr. Donald Johanson, director of the Institute of Human Origins, discovered Lucy, an alleged ape-to-man missing link.
The human family and the ape family diverged and went on their own individual and separate evolutionary trajectories. We don't know precisely what the common ancestor was for that, but we know that it resembles something like what is called Ramapithecus.
Ramapithecus. That was formed out of nothing but a fragment of a jaw and several teeth. And for many, many years, Ramapithecus was held up as our ape-like ancestor. But now Dr. Pilbeam at the Yale-Harvard Peabody Museum, when I interviewed him, he said, we have found about 40 of these creatures now, some of them fairly complete, and they are not on the direct line to becoming man at all. They're more like an orangutan.
Dr. Pilbeam of Yale, who first claimed that Ramapithecus was an ancestor of man, now suggests that it isn't. Yet evolutionists continue to cite Ramapithecus as an ape-man link.
Another so-called missing link, Java Man, was concocted by Eugene Dubois when he found an ape-like skull fragment, and then 50 feet away he found a human leg bone. However, just before he died, Dubois confessed that he'd also found 2 human skulls at this same location, and he admitted that the skull fragment belonged to a gibbon and not to an ape-man.
Homo erectus is probably best known as Java Man. And it was at this stage in human evolution that they began to make and use these large triangular hand axes, brains expanded over 1,000 cc's, body proportions similar to ours evolved, and we were firmly on the road to later hominids, including modern humans.
This hoax is still accepted by evolutionists today, and it's presented to the public as a true missing link. If you think the Java Man hoax is incredible, wait until you hear all the facts surrounding Johansson's Lucy, this little 3.5-foot adult skeleton, which looks just like a chimpanzee.
As you know, Lucy was found in 1974, and sometimes I refer to her as the woman who shook up man's family tree, because she represents for us the oldest, most complete skeleton we have of any human ancestor known to anthropologists.
Now, the species Australopithecus afarensis, as represented by Lucy, is a species that we feel is ancestral to modern humans. And the significance of Lucy is that she gives us a good idea of what our ancestors looked like some 3 million years ago. We can learn from her skeleton about the way that she walked, for example. When we look at her knee joint, when we look at her pelvis, we see that she walked like you and I, instead of like a chimpanzee.
Johansson said, even though this is a very ape-like creature, it walked upright. Well, the pygmy chimp today wanders around in the rainforest walking upright almost all the time, so that doesn't prove anything.
Actually, the only features of Lucy which even hint at erect posture are the knee and hip joints. Dr. Charles Oxnard, with a sophisticated computer analysis, has concluded that Johansson's claims for the hip are unfounded, and it must be pointed out that the knee was not even found with Lucy.
This knee joint was found over a mile away, 200 feet deeper than the other bones.
She comes closer to representing, I think, what the average person thinks of as the missing link than any other fossil we had ever found in Africa. So she has extraordinary importance in terms of understanding the very earliest phases of human evolution.
Richard Leakey and others are now claiming that, in all likelihood, Lucy is really a mosaic of 2 or more species. This isn't funny. What is funny is that they claim that creation isn't scientific.
Get your mouth off the dead monkey. Get your mouth off the dead monkey. Get your mouth off the dead monkey.
Und was ist mit der Geschichte der Evolution und so?
Ihr werdet alle nur für dumm verkauft.
We're scientists. We can conceive of anything.
You must learn to distinguish between smut and science.
Science. Ooh, la-di-da.
That is a scientific fact.
Put your trust in the scientific method. Put your faith in the scientific method. I have enough faith in the scientific method.
What were you... I mean, was this ever about science?
Those damn scientists, they don't know what they're doing.
That's bad. Melanie, I can't even hear you. It's just noise coming out of an ugly scientist.
The fact that science can account for everything. Science is omnipotent.
Science and evidence don't seem to impact much what people believe.
And science is supposed to have all the answers.
Oh, now, don't speak to me of antiquated notions like a soul. I mean, you're a scientist. Can you measure a soul? Can you measure it? Huh?
Science is full of coincidences.
And I freaking love science. Ha!